We have seen restaurants here saying, oh, this is my plant-based dish, and it's a bed of lettuce with a chicken.
Why are these companies producing a product that mimics an animal look? Sometimes they even say, this burger bleeds.
Bleeds like a burger,
Why would you do that if you really care about the animal?
For us, the haters are great because the haters start the conversation. They evolve the conversation
And
into
they ask the
something.
questions as well.
Yeah.
Joanna and Max, founders of Root the Future, Thailand's largest plant-based and sustainable community. They're on a mission to raise awareness about sustainability and plant-based foods through various community-building activities and charity runs, shining light on environmental issues and providing a platform for many sustainable living establishments to make an impact in Thailand. Please help me in welcoming the founders of Root the Future, Joanna and Max. So guys, let's just get right into it. Root the Future. It's a pretty catchy name. Where did it come from?
Actually took us a while to get to that name. We had a couple of names before, and I think our previous name was This Planet B, and we were like, oh, that's a bit weird, not super catchy. And then actually we did like logos and everything for a previous name, and then we thought Root the Future, and then we were thinking, oh, it has kind of like connotations about like putting down roots and the future and rooting for the future, and it just kind of like fit. Like after all those previous ones we tried.
Although most people do still call us Root for the Future.
Yeah, which is fine.
Which, you know, is fine.
Grammatically correct. Yes,
exactly.
Right.
But if you're from Australia or even Americans, or is it just Australian?
I think it's just Australia. It has a bit of a different meaning.
Root has different connotations.
Oh no, do you mind telling? Because I have no idea what that is.
It's a little rude, but it's fine. So if you're rooting for the future, if you're
rooting, you're sleeping with somebody.
yeah.
Oh!
So we're sleeping for the future.
Oh, well, healthy. It's healthy.
Yeah, it's healthy.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, interesting. And I think a lot of our viewers, and myself included, I'm curious. Vegan and plant-based, you know, I don't know the difference. Can you tell me a bit more about
It's
that?
pretty much the same thing in terms of like if you've got a food that's labeled plant-based, it should be vegan, it shouldn't contain any animal products. But I feel like vegan food has had a bit of a rebrand over the last 10 years because it had a bit of a bad reputation, especially in like the UK and America, a bit of a bad reputation for being like crazy hippies, like running around screaming about like animal cruelty and
Dreads,
stuff.
yoga.
And I think that since it's come into the environmental kind of reasons for people eating plant-based, it's had a change of a name. But I think that's confused a lot of people, and many brands use it as vegetarian, kind of adding cheese and milk. But actually the actual definition of plant-based food should be the same as vegan food.
Yeah, all plant-based food is essentially void of animal products. So it's the same as vegan. But I think the confusion lies between plant-based food and a plant-based diet.
Which is where it gets really confusing.
Yeah.
I'm a little confused now, yeah.
So plant-based food is vegan food because it's purely made from plants. But if you're eating a plant-based diet, then you can incorporate other...
A plant-based diet is mostly based on plant-based food. But this is really confusing. We actually did an article about this a couple of years ago, and we spoke to like Oatly and Beyond Meat, and we spoke to some plant-based doctors and said like, what is the actual definition of plant-based? And what we found out is that plant-based food is actually 100% made from plants, shouldn't contain any animal products, but a plant-based diet may be like somebody says, I'm on a plant-based diet, they might have like, if they can't get anything else, they might have some dairy or some eggs or something like that. Yeah. Whereas a vegan diet is like super strict, like no animal products. And also they kind of follow the vegan lifestyle as well, which means wearing no leather, not wearing any wool, not having like any honey or anything in like beauty products, that kind of stuff. So it's like actually we're doing a video soon to kind of like clarify, because it's a super confusing, like, grey area.
It needs to be very simple and succinct.
Yeah, right.
But I think the thing that we try and focus on is that if something is labelled as plant-based, it should not contain any animal products because, it should just be completely based on plants. And it's kind of dangerous for allergies and stuff if it contains milk or eggs or fish.
We have seen restaurants here saying, oh, this is my plant-based dish, and it's a bed of lettuce with a chicken. Where it's the, you know,
What?
the base.
Okay,
base
well,
of
there
its
is a
plants.
plant in there.
There's a chicken breast based on
It's
plants.
based on it.
Oh, very smart.
Yeah.
Very cheeky.
Yeah.
But from what I'm getting from you, and you can correct me if this is not correct, but vegan, I find most people who claim to be vegans, they're more, they do it for ethical reasons, whereas plant-based people are more environmental. Is that what I'm getting?
Yeah,
You're
that
right,
tends to be how it is for sure. I mean, like I said, like vegans don't wear leather or anything like that as well. So I think there's definitely vegans tend to be more based on animal welfare.
Yeah.
Definitely
Yeah,
for sure.
for
And
sure.
plant-based is definitely based on more environmental.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm super curious, how long have you guys been plant-based?
So actually, I'm vegan and also plant-based.
Can be both.
Oh, so
same.
confusing. For me, 11 years, 11 and a half years now, and Max,
about
9,
almost
10.
Almost 10 years, I
Yeah.
think.
Okay.
It was actually really difficult for me, first of all, because I was 100% addicted to cheese, which I think most people are.
Yes.
I think most, if you were to say, like, the one thing that stops you from, like, eating more plants is dairy, is cheese, because it's literally addictive. So I went through, I think,
Bear in mind, this was like 9 years ago. The plant-based cheese is not what it is
Oh, the
today.
plant-based cheese
We went
10
through a
years
lot
ago.
of really bad vegan cheeses.
almost 10 years ago, it was like cardboard. It was just
yeah.
cardboard, like
Yes.
like tasteless blocks. But now it's amazing.
Yeah.
But I probably went through like 10,
Yeah,
20
we went through a
different
lot,
brands to
yeah.
try and find one eventually that I thought I could use as a swap. To be honest, 10 years ago, I didn't find it. But Jo is
something.
amazing in the kitchen, so she's like won
don't
me
know
over
about
through my
that.
stomach, I think.
Yeah,
so.
I feel like the best way to introduce people to plant-based food is just to like take them out to dinner somewhere delicious or cook them some really delicious food. I don't think that necessarily it all has to be about the like, like we need to learn about this, this and this. I mean, can slowly introduce people to more plant-based foods and be like,
show
it's not
how delicious it is.
it's not just salad and like carrots. Like you can eat whatever you want, just made plant-based. So I think
Yeah.
that's kind of what we try to promote. It doesn't have to be a difficult switch, and you can go as slow or as fast as you want. Just try and incorporate more plant-based foods into your diet.
Yeah,
Right.
I think making it fun and accessible and just enjoyable is the only thing that we need to do.
Right.
Because that's the pain point. It's the fact that people do still think that it's carrots and salads.
Yes.
But if we can show that it's cookies and cakes and pizzas and burgers and chicken wings, dare I say it,
Chicken with a quotation.
Yeah.
on it, yes.
chicken. Well then that's our job done.
Yeah.
That is true, though. Like, I have been to a lot of vegan places in Bangkok. I don't mind plugging them in. Bistro is
Yeah.
great.
So good.
Bear Food Bangkok
Oh my
is
God, the
awesome.
cheese.
cheese.
Oh, their cheese is to
That
die
smoked
for.
cheese.
I go there. I'm not vegan. Don't be offended, but I go there
You're not
specifically.
what?
But I go there specifically for their truffle cashew nut cheese.
Oh,
So
yeah.
it's to die
very
for.
good. So
Anyways, do sponsor us if you're watching this.
They actually Bistro won the best plant-based restaurant in Bangkok
Bangkok.
for our plant-based food
In
awards
Thailand.
2 years in a row.
Yep.
And I think Bear Food won best plant-based cheese last
Last
year.
year.
Yeah.
Well, now that you're talking about that,
Yeah.
can you kind of elaborate or give us more details on how that award ceremony came about?
Sure. Actually, maybe I'll start by saying like Root the Future started. When we first started, we were like, oh, this is a great time. This was 2020 when COVID was happening. We were
Great
like,
time.
This is a great time to like catch
Straight
people.
in the middle of the pandemic.
Yeah, but it was a good time to catch people kind of on their phones. Everyone was at home, like either on their laptops or on their phones or on their TVs. This is a really good time to like make some great fun content and kind of spread the word a little bit. So that's how we started. We were like, the plan was just to do a bit of content and build a community, but we slowly kind of fell into doing campaigns and events. We did a small market and we were like, oh my God, there's so many people here, and we'd only been running for 2 months. And then Max came up with the idea to do the plant-based food awards, which we did a couple of months after that. And it was just kind of we just thought it would be a great way to kind of put the spotlight on plant-based food and the people who are already doing great plant-based food in Thailand. And also we wanted to show people who maybe aren't doing any plant-based food that there's a market, that people are actually interested and maybe kind of want to give them a bit of FOMO, like they want to get involved. Maybe they can introduce some like plant-based food to their menus. And everyone like, on the first year, I think we had like 20,000 votes, which we were so stoked about because we were only running for like 6 months by this point. And everyone was really excited to vote for their favorite restaurant and get involved. and then we did I think there was 25 awards or something altogether. We did Bangkok, Chiang Mai, and Phuket.
So that's best cheese, best milk,
best plant-based burger, all the fun things. Best plant-based cheese. Yeah,
it's great really for people who are already plant-based and they want to know where to go, or if even if they have family members that aren't plant-based as well and they want to go to a restaurant that might have options. I think that's also a really good one. Like best restaurant that has plant-based options is great. But like Joe said, all these campaigns that we do, we basically just want to get hype. We want to build hype. We basically want to just go, come on, like shake and be like, look how exciting this is, because plant-based food is exciting. And if we can get people to be like, oh, okay, then I can vote for this, I can vote for that, and then we can show how big this audience is, or show other restaurants how big the plant-based community is, and then they can start implementing dishes.
Show that there's a demand. And also for the first year as well, we kind of wanted to include the vegetarian festival, the J Festival, because I know a lot of people who kind of participate in the vegetarian festival, and every year they're like, I don't want to eat mushrooms for a week again. Like, I'm so bored of this. So we released the full like award winners list for everybody who, like, I think it was for the first day of the vegetarian festival, so they could kind of use it as a guide to like go around.
It's a tear out guide in Bangkok.
Yeah, it was a tear out guide. So we wanted people to use it as a guide. Like if they were participating in the J Festival, they're like, oh, there's actually like burgers and like cheese and like milk and stuff that we can try. It doesn't have to just be like deep fried mushrooms. Although saying that I love deep fried mushrooms,
and a lot of it is still J.
Yeah,
like, it doesn't just.
There's
have
always
to be,
J options. Yeah,
it's for us, a lot of the time, the audience or the consumers of J food can be slightly older. But so the new generation who have seen that sort of heritage side of J food see plant-based food as an evolution, like the next step, like much more delicious food, like much more variety. So I think that's everything we do. We just want to try and increase that accessibility.
Right. Now, we were talking about the food ceremony. I know that you also hold charity runs. Can you tell us more about the Run for Future Plant-Based Pledge for the Planet event?
Well, actually, we kind of accidentally did this for the first time last year in 2021.
You just started running.
Not quite like Forrest Gump style, but no, we accidentally did it in 2021. It was kind of middle of July, I think, and all the restaurants had just closed down. Like, I know it was like the second batch of like restaurants closing, and we knew a lot of restaurant owners who were like really struggling. Like they're like, oh my God, this is the second closure. We don't know how we're going to make it through this one. And we just really didn't want to see all these sustainable kind of food restaurants and cafes closing down because of the pandemic. So we were like, how can we do something? How can we like help them stay afloat? Obviously we can't buy enough food to like keep them all afloat, so we kind of thought maybe we can do a marathon run. And obviously during 2021 we couldn't do a group of people, so I was like, I'll run the marathon, and maybe we can ask people not to donate but to buy vouchers for the restaurants that they can use later. So these restaurants have upfront money now that they can help to keep them afloat, that people can use to redeem for food later.
So then that's how we did
it.
They can open back up again, people can come in, either redeem their vouchers, and then they also open again. And
there were some amazing people who were like, this is such a good idea, and some people bought like 20,000 bahts worth of vouchers, and it was just so nice to see the community like getting involved.
We raised about 240.
No, we raised 450,000 last year.
Wow, that's quite a bit.
And it was a bit stupid because I only had 2 weeks to train, but it was I made it, so it was fine.
42.2 kilometers
that
normally
is
a feat.
Well, the
For
original
Joe running 42.2 kilometers in Bangkok heat, wearing a mask on the roads because the parks were closed.
They closed like a week before the marathon. I was like, no.
That's a challenge.
I actually followed you when you were doing
really?
I'm like,
you saw the GPS.
No, yes.
Oh, that's so cool.
But I didn't see you though. Were you running?
Max wasn't running.
You came up with the idea. I'm like, okay, this is a good idea. Now you can execute it.
I was there every 4 or 5 kilometers refueling.
I don't think I would have been able to do it because like
you can use that as a sound clip. She wouldn't be able to do it.
Yeah, I wouldn't have been able to do it. But it was on the roads, like there was no other way for me to get fuel and water and stuff, so honestly wouldn't have been able to do it without having Max like driving every 5 kilometers to help me.
I would have loved to have run 42.
But we did it again this year because last year everyone was saying, can we run with you? We really want to get involved. So this year we said, let's do it. We don't need to raise money for restaurants again because everything's up and running, but we wanted to get people involved somehow. So we asked people to pledge to eat plant-based for 10 days or 20 days, 30 days, 40 days, 50 days. And this year we were like, how can we make it even more crazy? Like, let's make it more crazy. So I did a 50-kilometer run this year, which I kind of regret. My legs still hurt, but yeah, and lots of people either pledged to eat plant-based or they came to join the run and then they asked their friends to pledge to eat plant-based. So it was a great way to kind of like reduce the impact on the planet just a little bit and also raise awareness about plant-based food as a whole. We had the recycled marathon jerseys, and they just kind of had a message about plant-based food on the back. So it's kind of like passive activism. I think that's what Root the Future is all about. It's like passive activism,
doing something without actually causing any sort of aggression. Completely passive that you can. For example, actually, if you go online to our website, you can see on the pledge page the impact that you can make personally if you pledge to eat plant-based for 10, 20, 30, 40 or 50 days.
So we've got the total amount, that's the amount of water that we save, the amount of carbon emissions that, I say we, that everybody, not us, the amount of carbon emissions that people save from being released into the atmosphere, the amount of water, the amount of land, and the amount of animals as well. So yeah, that was so cool to see everyone kind of like rallying around that. And also we had more people than we expected joining us. We were like, I'm sure it's just going to be a couple of people. No one's going to want to run. But actually we had loads of people joining us. It was great.
Running around.
Yeah. And also we had people overseas joining virtually and people in like Phuket and Chiang Mai joining virtually. So that was really cool. Yeah.
But I think it was about 2,600 days that were pledged collectively for people to eat plant-based food. So in total, I think that's something like 300 one-way trips from Bangkok to Chiang Mai.
In terms of emissions.
In terms of like carbon emissions, or something like 100,000 showers. I can't remember the stats off the top of my head, but like they're all on the website to see. Right. But it's shocking. It's honestly shocking. And then the last statistic that I think is really interesting is the amount of animals that were saved, but compared to the amount of animals that are in like an average-sized factory farm, and it's I think there were 700 or 800 animals saved. And that would be 0.8% of the animals in a factory farm, which is shocking, really. So imagine if that was 100%, and the statistics of the carbon and the water.
Just from one farm,
Just from one farm.
Yeah.
Right. I'm wondering, though, the people who signed to pledge with you guys, are they typically people who are already plant-based eaters, or are there new joiners?
Yeah, I think that is because I think a lot of our followers just kind of follow us for like, if they don't really know where to eat plant-based, so they're just kind of following us to see what plant-based food is available. Obviously, a lot of vegans follow us as well, but the people who pledged were not vegan, and they were kind of like,
you can tell because there were just dozens of 10 days.
Yeah, 10 days.
That's enough.
They were like, I think I can just about manage that.
The vegans obviously would be like, 50 days, sure, no problem. But yeah, there were a lot of 10 days.
So the next question is also, I know that you guys are both from England, and you guys are starting Root the Future in Thailand. Now, out of all the countries in the world, why did you choose Thailand specifically to do this?
Well, actually, I mean, I was born in England, brought up in Australia, and I was visiting England, and I met Max there. And then we actually lived in Dubai for a while, and we came to Thailand
on our
honeymoon. And we were like, oh my God, there's nature here, and everyone's really nice, and there's plant-based food everywhere. And then we moved here like 2 months later. We went back to Dubai, got our cat, and we moved here like 2 months later. And for a while, I was working as a model, and Max was still working in Dubai. And then we just kind of realized that the community here, there's such a big plant-based community. And I also feel like there's a bit of a gap for education around plant-based food. I think, to be honest, there's a bit of a gap everywhere in the world. But we felt like this was a good place to start, kind of raising awareness about the impact that our food can make. So I feel like it's such a difficult thing to like connect. Like when you just think about like food and the environment, they feel so disconnected. So that was kind of a gap where we thought we could kind of like raise a bit of awareness.
We started sharing our own sort of journey on the page, sort of, like, this is where we're going to eat this food, or this is where we can refill this, that and the other to prevent plastic. And then our sort of following grew, and we thought, well, if people are enjoying what we're doing and what we're sharing, then maybe we can just start doing events, and we can just start just building excitement and building this community, because something needs to happen. Something needs to change.
Right.
And after COVID, we can't just go back to how it was. It has to be a new normal. The phrase.
Yeah.
Yes.
But
So I feel like we didn't really choose Thailand. We were kind of here because we love Thailand.
Thailand chose you.
Yeah, maybe.
I like it. I'll start with that.
Yeah, let's use that. So we just feel like, wherever we are, I feel like it's our responsibility to kind of, raise awareness, and I feel like everyone should be doing everything that they can. Doesn't matter the knowledge they have, whether that's about reducing plastic or anything to do with the environment. I feel like we all need to get together and do everything that we can to kind of, save the planet essentially.
But Thailand's actually great because obviously J food is everywhere. Fruit and vegetables are abundant. So for us to start talking about like vegan or plant-based food, there's no sort of
there's no stigma behind
the wording, because people are already very accepting of plant-based food because it's culturally accepted. So for us to start talking about veganism or plant-based food here, people are like, oh, that sounds interesting.
Also, it might be the easiest place in the world to eat vegan.
Yes,
Possibly.
I would agree.
For Thai food anyway, I can't think of anywhere we've been and we've said, do you mind making this without fish sauce and just adding the vegetables? And I'm pretty sure every single time everyone's been like super happy to do that. Yeah, we've got tofu. Like everyone's got tofu.
It's a lot easier than you think. Tofu here is just the best tofu I've had in the world.
Go to England and try tofu, and it's not the same thing.
No, you think tofu and you think, silken tofu. It's sort of like wobbly and it falls apart in Indian curries.
Right.
That's the standard English view of tofu. But here, like a nice firm tofu that soaks up the flavor.
If you don't mind, since we're talking about food, now a lot of people also say, plant-based food, especially restaurants, they're so expensive. And the vegan or the plant-based lifestyle, I know that a lot of people are into environment, so they buy tote bags, they don't use plastic bags, which are great initiatives. But they say, isn't that the lifestyle for the rich? How would you address that?
I think that there's definitely a bit of a misconception. I think that's probably not helped by the fact that a lot of plant-based products can be expensive because they're smaller companies. Like the big meat companies and dairy companies actually have often in most countries have subsidies from the government. So I don't know if that's exactly the same here, but they're often supported by government, or they have kind of grants to help them. So plant-based food tends to be more expensive because they're smaller and they don't have extra support.
Can I jump in too? Because with a lot of plant-based products, when the market starts to become interested in plant-based food, they usually import products, so imported milks and meats. And the tariff, for example, can be insanely high. To import plant-based milk into Thailand is 60 to 90% tariff extra.
I don't know if you've seen Oatly, which is I don't know, maybe the world's most popular oat milk, but it's super expensive here, whereas in the UK it's like 40 baht or something for a litre. But so the importing as well doesn't help. But then
you go to the side of a road and you can get soy milk for 8 baht.
So I think
super affordable.
I think it depends, on the kind of places you go and eat. But I do think that the plant-based products don't necessarily help the price point of restaurants right now. But also at the same time, when you look at whole foods, when you look at fruits and vegetables and rice and beans and grains, they're literally the cheapest foods in the world. So it doesn't have to be expensive. Obviously it can be, but it definitely doesn't have to be. If you cook for yourself, or if you go to more kind of whole food places, or even like Max said, some of the J food sellers, it can be just the cheapest food in the world. Because when we think about the resources that go into meat and dairy, all the animal feed that has to go to the animals and the water that has to go to the animals, it actually is more expensive to produce them in the first place, even though they're on a bigger scale, because the resources that maybe the grains or the corn that could have gone to human consumption directly is now going to the animals, and way more than the calories you would get from the animal versus the calories you would get from the food if we fed it directly to us. So if you think about it in terms of economics, it is actually cheaper to just eat the vegetables first. But
even if you look at it from say the level of protein, if you go to Big C and you buy like a 500-gram pack of pork mince, for example, and you look at the protein on that, it would be 10 times cheaper to buy the same amount of protein from soybeans.
So we actually did a post to try and debunk this myth that plant-based food is expensive, and that also you can't get enough protein from plant-based food, which I would like to go into more, but I won't. So we broke it down as in the price in baht per gram of protein, and it was actually like 10 times cheaper per gram of protein for beans and like mung beans and soybeans versus pork, beef, chicken. So it's definitely a bit of a misconception depending on where.
But I think you're right, where people think plant-based food and they associate it with Beyond Meat or Oatly or these huge products that are expensive. They are, especially if it's compared to like a local market. But like Joe said, if you look at the whole food aspect of plant-based food, it's so much more affordable than people think.
There are also, in the last kind of year or two, there's been more local Thai plant-based companies launching, which is helping to make it more affordable, more accessible, for sure.
It makes sense. 60% tariff on plant-based milk that's brought in, which turned it from 200 to plus 60%. It just makes more sense to make it locally.
Actually, I do have something to add to that, or rather a question. Because you're saying that there's a lot of Thai companies now that are doing something similar to Beyond Meat. And so my next question is, a lot of these plant-based, advocates or even vegan people are talking about animal welfare, right? And so why are these companies producing a product that mimics an animal look? Sometimes they even say this burger bleeds.
Like a burger,
why would you do that if you really care about the animals?
I've also seen some products here, like a whole like soy patty or something in the shape of an entire chicken. I was like, whoa, that's so weird. But I think the point, like the reason that people eat plant-based food is not necessarily because they don't like meat or because they don't like how it looks. I think a lot of people love the taste of meat and they love the taste of cheese, but they want to make a switch to a more sustainable food option. And I know even ethical vegans who are kind of only interested or mostly interested in the animal welfare aspect, they still want a burger that tastes like a burger. They just don't want to have to, get it from a cow. They don't want to have to end the life of an animal to have their food. So I think that, and it's the same for sustainability. People want to lower the impact of their food, but they still want to eat a burger, They still want something that looks and tastes like the real thing. So, I think that's kind of the reason for this.
There's a need for it. Like people aren't just going to go plant-based or vegan overnight. They're just not. Like that just wouldn't happen. Everyone in the world. But if there are lots of products that sort of help people to just swap out a product that they would usually use in a recipe that they've been making weekly for years, like a plant-based mince, that they could just swap it for an animal mince for a plant-based mince.
It's kind of like a gateway drug. You know what I mean? It's like a gateway food to plant-based diet.
It's just easy. These foods are easy. I think you don't necessarily need to use them, but I think that if people want that taste and that texture, like I love it. I love that. I do sort of crave that original taste that sort of like mostly comes from spice that meat has been used to cook with. But that same spice can be used in, like a soy protein burger, and
or even like tofu and vegetables. It's just often
these products are incredible. Like they taste just like the original. The texture is the same.
We'll have to come back with some burgers and do a taste test.
Oh yes,
do like a blind taste test.
I love. We do tons of blind taste tests here. Yeah, please do. Yeah.
We'll get a lot of hate for this, but like the plant-based caviar that I've had. It's very good.
Really?
Max loves to use the words like caviar and like chicken wings and stuff because he knows he'll get a rise out of some people.
Just count down from 3 because they're already like this.
Yeah. I'm glad that you mentioned that because I want to ask you guys, how do you deal with haters? People who don't believe in plant-based.
I love them.
I'll let Max answer that one.
Well, without the haters, we'd never grow. Like otherwise we just keep saying the same thing in our echo chamber to our community, and we're saying plant-based food is good, and they're saying plant-based food is good, plant-based food is good, and it just kind of goes around and there's no growth. But for us, the haters are great because the haters start the conversation. They evolve the conversation into
and they
something.
ask the questions as well.
Yeah, they're like, well, actually, no, this meat has never. You can't. Why do you call it chicken when it's not chicken? Have you tried it? Have you tasted it? Try it. See what you think. Like I've offered. I've even offered to pay for lots of people, lots of commenters to come and like, I'll meet you at a restaurant. I'll sit you down. Let's just have a meal together.
So Max takes them out to dinner. I think is
I basically
actually take up his offer.
No one's taking it up.
I go on dates with haters.
Right.
But I think that what Max was saying is, reaching outside our echo chamber. Obviously, you get a bunch of haters, but Max is like so patient at responding to all these comments and quite like level-headedly responding and like with logical. There's no way I could sit there and deal with like commenting.
When I see comments come through and I turn to Jo and she's also seen the comment, I can literally see the steam coming out of her ears.
I can't sit there patiently and respond. So Max responds to every single comment, has a conversation with these people, even if they're being like super intense. And then these posts get outside of our page in our group. These posts get so much reach, and they reach people who may not have seen it before. And you also see people who are maybe not interested in plant-based food kind of coming to Max's rescue. So they're being like, wow, that person's being really irrational. And then they find themselves kind of defending plant-based food, and then it kind of changes the whole psychological barrier between people who aren't interested in plant-based food or don't know anything about it, and then kind of being opened up to it.
They come to my rescue and they say, "Oh, why are you being so mean? It's just food."
Yeah.
They are so much more open to trying it.
Can I like take a little bit of pat on the back? I have followed your pages and then I see those comments. I don't dare to respond back because I'm like chicken, but I like the ones that like, why are you like so mean? I'm like, I'm gonna like this one. I'm gonna like this one. Like,
that's awesome.
Support.
That's so cool. Yeah, it's cool when you see all of Max's comments with all the likes and then all the other ones just like
laughing faces.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, laughing faces.
I find that there's a lot of good people out there, but the good people are the ones that are quiet.
Yeah.
And the ones that are kind of vocal are the ones who are just like,
that's
nah.
what I'm doing it for. Like I'm doing it because I know that this post that would usually have, I don't know, 20, 30 likes on a standard Facebook page, if it has 100, 200 comments from haters saying, why are you using this terminology? It's not chicken, it's plant-based chicken. People are going to get confused. Then that reach is going to reach so many more people, and the people that are going to just read that.
Yeah.
I love reading comments, just like sitting
Yes,
there, being like, popcorn. Yeah, I just sit here and read comments for ages.
Oh, you're describing
Yeah,
me. Okay.
little do people realize the haters are actually like helping.
Yeah,
us
I love
spread
the
message.
haters.
So every time we get a comment that they're saying, "Oh, this is horror."
Better not say that, otherwise we won't get any hate.
Yeah,
on
no.
this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So kind of a, how do you call it? Reverse
Double-edged sword.
marketing.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Strategy in a bit.
But you're right, the quiet people will probably sit there reading it, or even will see the post when they may not have seen it before because it's got a better reach
That's
and
why
the
it's
algorithm
important
has
to
helped
put
it.
like statistics, like factual statistics, evidential journal studies, just logic, because no
Max
one can
responding with like studies and like
no one can argue with logic.
citations on Facebook comments.
Yeah, it's great.
Can't deal
It
with
takes
it.
a long time.
Yeah, I would say.
It's worth it.
So I know that you guys have a lot of haters, but then sometimes I find that there are people in the vegan community, let's say extremists, who like, if you go to the zoo, you're not a real vegan. You shouldn't even be calling yourselves vegan. So they're kind of attacking their own kind sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, what will you say to those people?
I think that it's never a right thing to kind of like chastise somebody for what they're doing. I think you're never gonna make any change. Like even if you don't agree with people who like go to the zoo, or even people who eat animal products, like nobody was born into a world that isn't this one, you know? Like society is the way it is. Like people have grown up doing things that are normal to society. Like you're never gonna change somebody's mind by saying you're a bad person,
You can never tear someone's cultural heritage and history down from how they've grown up. You just can't.
I think
it would make people cement that history and their own opinions more if you're aggressive. Saying that though, aggression, for a lot of influencers and for a lot of YouTubers, does sometimes help. It's horrible
controversy
to say,
sometimes, but I do feel like that the best way to kind of offer solutions is to offer solutions, saying like, okay, you're at the zoo, but look at this place. This is a sanctuary. How cool is this? Maybe this is a better option. Or that steak looks like nice, but maybe try the plant-based one. It has less of an impact. You know, I feel like you're never going to get anyone to stop eating steaks by saying, that's really bad, you're a bad person.
Yeah.
Because nobody, like, people aren't bad people just because they eat steaks. It's just, you know, how the world is right now.
Yeah.
So, it's never, I don't think it's ever really a good tactic to do.
It's not, and it's not something that we do.
No.
We always try to focus on like the positive side of eating more plants. Like, look how much of an environmental impact you are having, a positive environmental impact that you are having if you're eating more plant-based foods, or if you're adopting more of a plant-based diet. So even just showing like these steps, we will congratulate. Or there's no point in sort of tearing anyone down ever.
No,
Yeah. I like your passive activism.
Yeah.
I think that's definitely a good way to go about it. Okay, the last question I have for you. So any exciting stuff in the future for Root the Future?
Oh, we have we have a project launching this afternoon. Yes, we have a partnership with 101 True Digital Park. We have like a month-long plant-based eatable takeover. So a bunch of the restaurants in the mall are going to have kind of Root the Future menus for an entire month, like vegan dishes available throughout the entire mall. So you can kind of go there and like work your way through all the amazing plant-based food, which is what we're going to be doing this evening.
You can try shrimp. You can try
here we
beef
go.
burgers. All plant-based, of course.
But yeah, there's like bubble tea places getting involved, restaurants, cafes. So that's our next project. And we also have a few other projects at the end of the year. The large festival that we did in 2020, we're hoping to do like this year, but much, much bigger towards the end of the year.
Biggest in the world?
I think it will be the biggest in the
In
world.
the world. Wow.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
So that's will be November, December, or January.
Yeah, around that area.
to be confirmed. And we just had a smaller market in Chiang Mai this weekend. So yeah, we're just kind of like running off of that still.
And then obviously we have the
running club.
awards as well, starting in January, the Plant-Based Food Awards, which will be open again on the website. You'll probably see all these little like flyers around all the vegan restaurants and restaurants that have plant-based options. So you just basically scan the QR code that you see, and then it will just take you to the awards page, and then you just be like, well, okay, the best plant-based burger, click on that, and then you just type in which restaurant you feel like that is.
We're also going to have the running club ongoing. It's kind of like a spin-off of the marathon. Because we made these shirts, these passive activism shirts, we want to kind of keep people wearing them, and we feel like the running club is a great way to get people. Again, I feel like it's another form of passive activism. If you're out there getting fit, you're kind of saving the planet at the same time because you're raising awareness just by what you're wearing, and also if you're plant powered and you're showing people that you're fit, and people will kind of maybe take interest in that. And yeah, so we're going to do. We'll be launching that next week or the week after, depending on how long my legs recover.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah.
So we're just going to kind of encourage people to join the running club. Like, you don't have to wear the shirt, but just getting people together to kind of run and get fit and raise awareness about.
Well, you can do what I do and just stand around wearing it and just
give out
hand
water.
out
You
water.
have to be here to take the pictures. I
Yeah,
can't run.
Right. All right, Joanna and Max, thank you so much for your insight into the plant-based world. I really learned a lot. I got a lot of knowledge, and I really hope that our viewers got it too. And do check out their website at where again?
rootthefuture.com or Instagram /rootthefuture or Facebook /rootthefuture or YouTube /rootthefuture.
You got it.
Yeah.
All the information out here and also down below in the comments. All right.
Cool.
Thank you so much,
Thanks for
guys.
having
Thanks
us.
so much for having us.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.